الحمد لله رب العالمين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم وما بعد. Praise be to Allah, the Lord, guardian, cherisher, and sustainer of all the world. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, one and alone, and no partner as He. And I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is His servant and messenger. And we ask Allah's choicest blessings upon Prophet Muhammad and who traditionally follows all the most excellent salutations to Muhammad upon whom be peace. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. We praise Allah with much praise. There is no such thing as too much praise for Allah. There are classically collected 99 most excellent attributes attributed to Allah, but Allah has attributes beyond that list. Among those attributes, He is Al-Muhyi and Al-Bar. Al-Muhyi and Al-Bar. Al-Muhyi is the giver of life, and Al-Bar is translated as the pure, or the source of piety. The pure. It leads me to want to investigate whether the word beer or righteousness is related to bar, pure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Muhyi, the giver of life, and He is Al-Bar, the pure. The intended topic of the khutbah today is activity with purity. Activity with purity. Sometimes, as a person gives a khutbah, the concern may be that the point gets lost. But the intended point is to focus on activity with purity as it relates to life and giving life. Activity with purity. So before we go much further, we want to remind some who may not have been reminded that it is the tradition of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, established for sure in his farewell khutbah. During the khutbah, he asked the audience, the believers, to respond. He put forward some questions during the khutbah, and he asked for a response. He was not expecting the believers to sit up and say, "We're not supposed to say everything during Jumah." He asked for a response. He did not get up and say, "Oh, have I delivered the message?" in order to have people sit there silent. So we are going to ask for some response. And when we ask for a response, we're not asking anybody to break the tradition of Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace. The farewell khutbah demonstrates that for the khatib to ask the community for a response during the khutbah is not only halal, he did it in his farewell khutbah. Does that make sense? You can say yes or no.
Yes.
All right. I would like to know if I've gotten across that the intended topic is activity with purity. That's how many things is that? That's two. The first of which is what? Activity, and the second of which is purity. Okay, so from that response, I believe that I can move on. Because according to teachology, if people couldn't answer that, I'd be wrong to move on. I need to be staying on that point until it's clear. Now, Imam July, if the topic is activity with purity, why you got on the board, got to be very busy for God? That's the subtitle. That's activity with purity. What part is the activity? Got to be very busy. So what part is the purity? For Allah. Because you can have activity, but it's really for that for which it's really intended. Huh? You can have activity, but it not really be for Allah. You can have activity and it not really be for Allah, even if you say it's for Allah. Huh? Because whoever migrates, which is an activity, the migration is really for what it's really for, not what you say it's for. Does that make sense? And when what you say really matches what you claim, then you might get the title Siddiq, which means that what you say proves out to be for real, for real. Abu Bakr earned that. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He confirmed what he was saying by the realness that he put behind it. So it might be the same thing. Prophet Muhammad got the title El-Amin, the trustworthy, and his running buddy got the title As-Siddiq, the one whose actions confirm what he be saying. Got to be very busy is about doing. And for Allah is about purity, because the topic, the focus is activity with purity. Now, this is after believing. After believing. Activity is amilu, what you do. But generally speaking, in the times that we've seen it over and over and over again, before amanu, in most cases, comes amanu, believe, right? And then the amilu is amilu salihat. Most everybody here knows what Yusuf Ali says that is. He says that's a righteous deed. Fair enough. But when we look in the word salih, it really says in the root word, it is fitting and appropriate. Fitting and appropriate. So amanu wa amilu salihat means after you believe, then you do your activity in a fitting and appropriate way for a person who has made it to the believer stage. Y'all not telling me that this is clear. So, let's go. If something is supposed to be a duck, it just doesn't exist in duckness. It does some duckness. Huh? If it's going to be duck, it's got to do duck. Right? So what is solely for a duck? What is supposed to do? Probably supposed to quack, supposed to fly, supposed to swim on the water. Now, if a thing is a fish, and they go to quacking, that's not solid. That's all amilu, is doing something. But that's not solid. That's not fitting and appropriate for a fish to be quacking. You know what a fish supposed to do? Huh? Yeah, fish supposed to do what a duck does, but it's not supposed to do it duck style. Fish is not supposed to get on top of the water and paddle his feet. It's supposed to be under the water and swimming in a way different from the way ducks do. Because what the fish does has to be amilu salihat after supposing to be a fish. Does that make sense? Etc. 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 Dogs supposed to do things their style. I ain't going in. Cat's supposed to do things their style because it is fitting and appropriate if it's really a dog and if it's really a cat. So if a believer, in quotes, is a believer for real, then the doing, the getting very busy is supposed to be in the appropriate and fitting style for the way such a creature does things. Now, we are the believers of the Muslim community. As exemplified in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as we know from just coming fresh out of the month of Ramadan, the phenomenon of Ramadan began with a command, and I guess we know what the command was. The very first word revealed during the month of Ramadan, during the darkness, was a command which could be translated as read. Is that right? Believing and not reading is not salihat. A believer is to be a reader if it's a believer for real. That's one of the reasons why we have on the mission statement in the lobby, we are committed to establish a balanced community life in its broadest sense, witnessing the eternal wisdom of the what? Words of God, and the life exemplified by Prophet Muhammad. So, this kind of believer is not supposed to be hesitant to read the words of God or the life exemplified by Prophet Muhammad and be like a duck that doesn't quack. Whosoever is a believer, the belief is supposed to carry forward in getting busy at doing what a believer do. I don't care if it's grammatically incorrect. I've had a person enrolled in one of my classes tell me to my face in front of everybody else, I am an N-word, I do what an N-word do. They're standing up for their N-wordness. Should there be any hesitation to stand up for one's believerness? Huh? All right. Now, the thing, the intent to emphasize is activity with what?
Purity.
Purity. Activity with purity. Something got to be very busy for Allah. This is two parts. Got to be very busy is activity. For Allah is purity. We want to share promises from Allah. I have no nervousness about coming out with this because it is not on me to fulfill this. This is not a promise from me. It's promise from Allah. Don't miss them, please. One of them is in Surah 61. And in Surah 61, English translation. And the range from this, for this, is ayah 10 through 13. To make it a short excerpt, ayahs 10 through 13. English translation. O ye who believe, shall I lead you to a bargain that will save you from a grievous penalty? That ye believe in Allah and His Messenger, and that ye strive your utmost in the cause of Allah with your property and your persons, that will be best for you if ye but knew. He will forgive you your sins and admit you to gardens beneath which rivers flow, and to beautiful mansions and gardens of eternity. That is indeed the supreme achievement, and another favor will He bestow, which ye do love, help from Allah, and a speedy victory. So give the glad tidings to the believer. Did I just read that? Are there some believers in here to whom I gave those glad tidings?
Yes, sir.
See, as when you find yourself personally doing things that Allah told Prophet Muhammad to do, that movement toward purity, it feels good. Okay? A lot of us want to see some Muslim get up and represent. That makes sense? But when that Muslim is your own self, it feels so satisfying. It feels so good, and you can never get the feeling not doing nothing. The bargain, first of all, it is not addressed, O ye who reject faith. It's O ye who believe, starting out talking to people who made it that far. Shall I lead you to a bargain that will save you from a grievous penalty? I hope I don't drift when I mention this, but this question, shall I? Shall I lead you? And Prophet Muhammad's likewise compatible way that we see in the Hadith, shall I tell you of a thing? That type of thing. Asking people, shall I, even before telling them that which is for their own benefit, to give them a chance to express their willingness, their readiness. I spent a lot of time trying to tell people without even finding out that they wanted it. And sometimes our idea of dawah might be off from the spirit of this. We want to tell beneficial stuff at folks instead of that other approach, shall I tell you of a bargain that will save you from a grievous penalty? And since part of the theme is purity, before I set Surah 61 aside, I also mentioned that this is the one where in the second verse, it asks, O ye who believe, why say ye that which you do not? And then the next verse, grievously odious is it in the sight of Allah that you say that which you do not? Anyway, one, promise from Allah that there's this tijara, this bargain, this exchange which in essence is that you strive in the cause of Allah. Strive in the cause of Allah has got to be very busy, and it's got to for Allah. Yes? All right. Another one, Surah 16, Ayah 97. English translation, Surah 16, Ayah 97. Whoever works righteousness, now this one mentions the doing on the front end. Whoever works righteousness, man or woman, and has faith. The way I'm taking that is whoever works righteousness, which is Yusuf Ali's way of saying, Amil Salihat, whoever does what is fitting and appropriate, and I'd say already, and they already have faith. They already made it to faith. Verily to him will we give a new life. A life that is good and pure. You mean Muslims believe in being born again? The ones who get their understanding from reading the eternal wisdom of the words of God do. But the people who go by how they imagine religion to go, no telling. But Allah promises grown folks a new life. A new life. A life that is good and pure. When I say grown folks, that means just like they questioned Jesus. You expect people as big as us to go back and come out the womb again? That sounds dumb, but the Bible says that they actually asked that basic question, which simple people, simple question. Right? But there is a way that you can be 10, 20, 68, 75 years old and get a new life when you make your mind up to line up. Hello, divine up. If that makes sense. And we will bestow on such their reward according to the best of their actions. That's how that ayah ends. Surah 16, ayah 97. A new life, life that is good and pure, plus the reward goes up when you hit a new height. Every time your best gets better, your reward goes up. Some of us know about retirement systems from jobs where, well, I know one particular retirement thing, they just take your highest 5 years income. And based on the average of your highest consecutive 5 years, that's how they determine what you retire on. Not how many years, part of it, but how good were the best 5. You do better, you get better. And third promise, they all seem to me very much alike. Surah 8, ayah 24. O ye who believe, give your response to Allah and His Messenger when He calleth you to that which will give you life. Give your response to Allah and His Messenger when He calleth you to that which will give you life. You mean believers can be dead? Uh-oh. I didn't write this ayah. It starts out, O ye who believe, give your response to Allah and His Messenger when He calls you to that which will give you life. So you can be a believer and still need to give your response to a call that will give you life. But you don't get that reward by not doing nothing. After you believe, there's some solid hearts, something fitting and appropriate that you got to do. Ducks, from what I'm told, they enjoy getting away from the cold in the winter. They have like a Caribbean life. And then when the Caribbean get too hot, they enjoy a Canadian life. Maybe it's geese. Geese. You get the point, right? There's probably 4 birds. I only mentioned 2. Ooh! Somebody read the Quran and they made a connection because they know what I'm talking about. Other people waiting on somebody to read for them, and chew it and spit it out. I ain't mad. Dead people don't get no response. That's one of the ways you check to see if somebody dead. They call it the quick and the dead. What that mean, quick? It's something to do with a response. A response. If somebody cuts you to the quick, I bet you're going to respond. But if you don't feel nothing, you dead. Does that make sense? All right. Abraham said, "My Lord, show me how thou givest life to the dead." Some of you know the story. You can't go through 20 Ramadans and ain't read the Quran yet. That's like a fish that don't swim. And you know, in general, the back and forth between Allah and Abraham. And Abraham was questioned as to whether he didn't believe. But he said it's to satisfy my own understanding, basically. And Allah gave him the teaching to help him understand the nature of this thing. He said, take 4 birds. Spent a lot of time thinking. He said, take 4 birds and put a portion on every hill and call them and they will come to you. But that wasn't the essence of it. Because I just intentionally told it like I used to remember it, and I left out the part about tame them to turn to you. What does tame them to turn to you mean? To me, it means train them to respond to you. Tame them to turn to thee means train them to where responding to you becomes in their nature. And then when you call them, people answer the call of whatever they've been trained to. This political season in America, one wing just finished its convention this past week, and the other wing gonna have its convention next week. Am I right? Huh? Yeah. And each portion of the bird is already trained, for real, trained. I'm telling you, if you are a person already trained to one wing, and you tune in to the news station that is training the other wing, your reaction is, that's some strange stuff. And vice versa. Everybody trained to something. The person who proudly says, I'm an N-word, I do what an N-word do, is thoroughly trained in N-wordism. Deeply trained. You cannot say a right-wing thing to a left-wing trained person and they come to it just naturally with speed. No. And people want justice. Ain't no justice from a far end of a wing. Did I skip ahead too fast? Huh? Justice is about, I'm looking for the word, I'm listening. Balance. Just, there is no such thing as left-wing justice for real. There is no such thing as right-wing justice for real, but to the left-wing person, left-wingism sounds just right because of years and years of training to the master's voice. Whoever is left-wing master trainer. Equally so right-wing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you want to be about justice, you cannot be out on a limb. People who are trained, the nature that comes about in that person is they are alive to that to which they have been trained. And they are dead to that which is far different. You frustrate yourself to a great degree having a left-wing expectation of how a right-wing person should respond. Because you just don't understand the nature of the child. If we pay attention to the speechifying in the air, both this past week and next week, during this political season, we hear people claiming our society to be more pure than it really is. We're talking about activity with what? Purity. For example, you don't have to listen long before you will hear people say that the nation is a place of equality and justice for all. Not aims to be one day. They will say it is. As if it has already actually become that. But it's claiming something that hasn't been made real. That's not Sadiq. That's idealism passed off as realism, but with enough intoxication and mythology, people's heart will do stuff. And it's something believers have to watch out for. Surah 3, Ayah 188. I'm trying to give an example of what I'm talking about because this purity thing is real, especially for doing the work that we have to do. And we got some work to do. We're going to do it too. The only question is how widespread is the volume, but we're going to do this. Surah 3, Ayah 188. Think not that those who exult in what they have brought about and love to be praised for what they have not done. Think not that they can escape the penalty, for them is a penalty grievous indeed. That doesn't seem to me right off the surface to be such a great violation. But it's like you go to high school, you get into the 11th grade, and you start claiming that you graduated. Up to the 11th grade is real. But that part like that you've already reached diploma stage, that's delusion. Sir Walter Scott is quoted as saying, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." You can't be tricky and pure and keep it together. I mean, like, just shortly after you start, it starts to unravel. I hope that makes sense. So we have to guard the purity of intent behind our activities. Let me try to make it real and clear what I'm saying. Look at the masjid's mission statement out in the lobby next time you get a chance. I'm holding it in my hand right here. Masjid al-Mu'minun is an Islamic community in association with the leadership of Imam W.D. Muhammad. It's a statement claiming to be something. We accept that wording because we honestly, sincerely think we are not stretching the truth with that. We have made it that far. We're saying it is, and in all sincerity, we really believe and have reasonable evidence to say this is a real statement. It is not an overreaching grant. Next sentence. This masjid proclaims in word and deed the universal message of al-Islam that there is but one God and one human family. We're saying the verb is proclaims. Now, are we saying it proclaims, but it doesn't really do that yet? I'm thinking that's real. It proclaims in word and deed. If we didn't believe it, we would be sorting people out at the door as to who can come in and who can't. Paragraph 2 says, we are committed to establish a balanced community life in Christ. Repeat after me, please. We are committed.
We are committed.
It doesn't say we have done it, does it?
No.
No, and that's purifying ourselves from hypocrisy. Okay? Before we go too far, trying to claim real what we haven't made real. So, when what we're talking about is really an ideal we're working to, it's better to say that than to start off on a hypocritical mission. Trying to claim to be what you haven't, what you ain't yet. The third paragraph of the mission statement says, we will cultivate the pattern of growth. Please repeat, we will.
We will.
It didn't say we have finished. It didn't say we just about to finish. It says we will do it. Does that make sense? So we are not saying we hold these truths to be self-evident when we in Philadelphia and the act of Virginia we don't live by. That ain't pure. Does that make sense? You cannot have purity by pretending to be based on one another. What am I saying? Surah 38, Ayah 86. Surah 38, Ayah 86. God says, say, O Prophet, no reward do I ask of you for this, nor am I a pretender. Allah tells Prophet Muhammad, don't overclaim. Expose the fact that you reading you. You're not pretending to be the author of the Quran. Huh? You're not doing it for something from the people, it's for Allah. وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُتَكَلِّفِينَ. I am not one of the ones, according to Israeli's footnote, that claims to have skills, abilities, and stages of development that it really don't have yet. And lastly, in this first khutbah, Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, which is all you who believe, Taqullaha wa kunu ma'a sadiqin. Or you who have attained faith, you who believe, fear Allah, be careful of your duty to Allah, remain conscious of Allah, and be with those who are true in word and deed. It's not only about the company that you keep, because you don't have to be in the same century with somebody to be with them. Think about it. Be with them can also mean position yourself psycho-spiritually, commitment to Allah. Position yourself in the company of those who have likewise positioned themselves to be true in word and deed. The believers are a brotherhood, the prophets are a brotherhood, they didn't even live in the same century. They're right? But they're brothers across the centuries. So people who are believers, who are true in word and deed, they are with Abraham. Does that make sense? Imam Jesus, a couple of thousand years ago, was dealing with some people. They were nowhere near pure, but they presented themselves as being all that. And they were talking about their father Abraham, and he had to check it and tell them, like, if you really want to get into this, your father to go. Based on how you do what you did. Because a duck quacks and swims on the water, and a fish doesn't quack, it swims under the water. May Allah bless us to be a community of Muslims that hold the banner of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Radiyallahu anhu ajma'in. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I have some announcements from Community Affairs Committee, and then I got some announcements from myself. So that after Jumah, the menu is baked salmon, turkey meatloaf with sauce, curry, basmati rice, steamed cabbage, cornbread, homemade cake, and tea or water. The donation, $10. That's in the food right after Jumah category. In the condolences category, condolences go to Brother Ismail Muhammad and his family because his mother, Miss Gatewood, has passed. The wake is Friday and the funeral is Saturday, and the details, time and place are posted on the bulletin board out there. Likewise, condolences to Sister Carolyn Stone and her family because her father, Mr. Lee Stone, has passed. And the wake and funeral are Tuesday, July 26th, time and place posted on page 4 of the announcements on the bulletin board. So there being 4 pages, we're going to hit the essence and move on. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Whitehaven High School is having a health fair and seminar with school supplies and health screenings, etc. Details on the board. A week from tomorrow, Saturday, July 30th, noon to 3 o'clock, is the Palau Food Pantry and clothes distribution. Volunteers are always needed. August the 5th, the city of Memphis is having a community career carnival and talent reception. Details on page 2 of the posted announcements in the hall. The International League of Muslim Women is hosting their annual back-to-school breakfast and free school supplies on Saturday, August the 6th. Time, ticket prices, etc. Details on page 2 of the announcement. MLTNW is offering Neighborhood Leaders Conference on keys to safety, Friday, August 12th. This is day work, those who are available during the day. See page 2 for information. The 27th Annual Muslim Convention, Labor Day weekend, details on the board. The Al-Maun Committee asked them to make dua for the sick and shut in, etc. Walla Wadud, Frank Ahmed, Jill Muhammad, Helen Ruth Richardson, Brother Johnny Matee. Contact phone numbers for the Al-Maun Committee, posted on page 2. The 13th Annual Muslim Journal, Time to Be Grateful, December 9th through 11th in Kansas City. Please support our vendors. Now, outside on the lot, I don't know if we were going to have any vendors in the Arabic classroom vending room across the hall, but the Muslim journals are there, and we have 3 bins for free material. If you like, there's footballs, leaflets, handouts. In one bin, Quranic passages, in another bin, Bible passages and Bible teachings in another bin. To get these announcements by email, you need to register with mamcommunityaffairs@gmail.com. 2 important points. Again, think ahead for the Mosque Cares Convention Labor Day weekend, because the megabus, you need to make arrangements in advance, see Linda Muhammad for that, as well as concerning Saturday, August 6th, Taking It to the Streets event, which I think is, yes, it is in Chicago. So those are essence of the 4 pages of community affairs announcements, details posted on the bulletin. Speaking of bulletin boards, as we go out directly, there is the community affairs bulletin. We go down the hall up towards the brothers and sisters bathroom past the water fountain. First board you get is the imams, resident imams bulletin board. There's communication from 2 congregations, the Christian congregations, that written us letters letting know that they've already been praying for us in this current environment. And we said and replied that likewise we'll be praying with you. So, I don't know if the names mean anything to you, if you want to know the names, their letters on the board. But just make intention to pray for the Christians and pray for you. Don't get all dogmatically strict. But pray that people be blessed for the goodness of God. All right. 3 warnings and 2 calls. This is from me. I'm not speaking simply as a Khatib, I'm speaking as a resident imam of Masjid al-Mu'minin and the Khatib, and as Rashad Sharif, the individual person whom many of you ought to know by now. If you don't know me by now, you will know me. Warnings. Quran, Surah 3, Ayah 186 and 189, Allah already said you're going to hear a lot of stuff that's going to grieve you from the people of the book. So don't think you ain't going to hear it. You're going to hear it. And Allah says, bottom line, if you do the taqwa and the sabr, if you stay God conscious instead of being conscious about them, you be conscious about Allah and be on that steady, that continuing steady. That is min azmi al-umur. It's the heart of things. It's the core thing of the core thing. It is the best determination of affairs. It's the determination of the determination. Azm and umur is about the same word. It's the core of the core. Surah 41, Ayah 36, if an incitement to discord is made, like somebody try to stir you up, get you off your wisdom, go back to remembering Allah. Allah got this. Allah got this. Somebody can rattle you until they can make you forget that Allah got this. It's a lot of hypocrites in the world. For real. Claiming to be sincere advisor. I'm just saying. And Surah 4, Ayah 135, basically, O ye who believe, stand out firmly as witnesses for justice. Right? For Allah, for justice. Maybe it's the same thing. Stand out firmly as witnesses for justice, whether it be against yourself, your family, your kin, rich or poor. Allah can make justice happen for everybody. Allah really don't need you to make all the decisions, but you get tired too quick. You be going to sleep at night. Allah doesn't slumber nor sleep. Are you going to bump him off the throne and start being the decider of what and when and how? You can't bump him off the throne because he is Alil Arsh Istawa. He is balanced. You ain't balanced. When you start pretending to exercise Allah's role, you're crazier than you realize. 2 calls. Those are the 3 warnings. 2 calls. This is Rashad Sharif, the person. This is Rashad Sharif, the Khatib. This is Rashad Sharif, resident imam of Masjid al-Mu'minin. 2 calls for this audience. This audience. Everybody. Because you're here for whatever reason that you're here. For the next overlapping year. For the next overlapping year. Let's make it start August 1st. Run through July 31st. Shake back up. Get the phone. You know what to do. But I'd like for you to read with conscious effort 2 specific passages. Everybody, whether you learn it or not. Surah 3, Ayah 102 through 104, and Surah 23, Ayah 111. That's all right, you don't have to write it down. It's already run off. Stack of them sitting right there. Double side. One of them talks about a promise for success, And the other one, let's do this again. Let's do this again. I turned my volume down like I was supposed to and didn't turn it back up. You know what he just did? That's Bayrock doing that. He making my phone go off. I bet you I know what he did. I'm gonna tell it on him right now. He dialed 482-8232. Got to be very busy for a lot. If that's what you do, this is what's gonna happen. If you can remember the sub-theme today, GTB, VBFA, got to be very busy for Allah, you get me. So I'm promising I'm not changing the phone number on you. It never was unlisted. But if you dial got to be very busy for Allah, you can reach the resident imam of Masjid al-Mu'minun. You can reach the brother that gave the khutbah today. You can reach Rashad Sharif, the person. This almost a trinity, isn't it? All right. But all three of these people in one are asking to study these two passages. One of them is about a process that ends with a promise of success, and the other one starts out about success, called Afla al-Mu'minun. It's the passage in the Quran this masjid was named after. So we should know that in common, even if you just come here visiting every once in a while. Wouldn't hurt. Got copies enough for everybody sitting right over there. That's one of these. By July 31st, 2017, inshallah, everybody be deep familiar with exactly what's being said in all of these. If you would like to learn it in Arabic, I do all I can to help. My hours are Fajr, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday. For those who like stuff to start with Tuesday, my hours are Fajr, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You just want to go over these passages, or the pronunciation, or the study, or whatever. Plus, Saturday night, Maghrib and Isha, and Tuesday night, Maghrib and Isha. Now, things do come up. Maybe I have to go to a meeting across town or attend a banquet or whatever, and I get somebody else to relieve me. So if you want to know in advance if I'm going to be here, what number you call? Got to be very busy for Allah. You find out. Make sure. The second call. It's a call. I'm talking about a serious year. I don't gamble. But if I was gambling, I'm telling you, all my time on this. The reason it's not a gamble, because Allah got this. Because I don't even want to be off of the promise of Allah. Gave the promises of Allah. Did I read out the promises of Allah? Did I read out the warnings of Allah? All right. Don't want to be off doctrine. There's no mileage in being off doctrine. Okay? The second call is for the Amil Salihat, getting very busy in the way that's appropriate for a Muslim, an intense year. We used to say get in where you fit in. That is Amil Salihat. Fitting and appropriate is what Salihat means. We just didn't say it in Arabic. But if you don't know where in the masjid you can fit in, the Imam's Bulletin Board got an organization chart. If what you're interested in isn't on the chart, that chart can be changed. Everything on the chart used to not be on the chart. When I first came here and I started having thoughts, ought to be a bookstore here. Somebody ought to start a bookstore. I find myself saying that to myself long enough, I finally realized who was somebody. And that's how I got on, that's how it became reality. But the imam at the time had to make sure that I was coming pure. I didn't really want to go through that. I just wanted to do it my ideal way, but it had to be activity with purity. We got sign-up forms right here. If you want to be counseled about where you can fit in, if you want to speak up, volunteer for something, it's been years since we did it, but the forms over things over there for you to pick up. The surahs, double-sided, the sign-up forms, or asking for a call or a conference to help guide you to get active in some way. And an editorial, not the one that's already came out in the Muslim Journal from me, the one that the Commercial Appeal is not going to print. And we don't know about the Muslim Journal yet. One that was in the Muslim Journal a week or so ago is on board. I realized that this season right in here with the left, with the one wing convention followed by the other wing convention, they got too much stuff they got to put on the editorial page. So I'm struggling to try to get them in. But if you want to see people expressing themselves, look in the Muslim Journal. 13-year-old Akila Abdul Baki, she's doing dawah. She's 13. Page 12, July 22nd edition. If you want to look at the video of the Ta'aleem last Sunday, 10-year-old Isa Abdul Baki doing dawah, flowing on the mic. 10-year-old and the 13-year-old beating the 60-something-year-old. Man, they getting a new life. You ain't gonna get a new life without doing this one. Surah 12, Ayah 108, and I'm out. Say thou, this is my way. I do invite unto Allah upon seeing as clear as the eyes, I and whoever follows me. You can't really be the full being of a follower of Muhammad until you invite, because Allah told him to set the bar that way. Said, this is my way. Id'u ila Allahi ala basira. I invite unto Allah on seeing clear as the eyes. Ana wa man taba'ani. I and whosoever follows me. The bar has been set high by Allah 1400 years ago. My chips all in. I'm all in. If you do your part of the promise for Allah and Allah doesn't deliver, I fail. I misled you. Fire me. If you can get around to it, for I resign in disgrace. My chips are all in on this. I don't call for stuff and then a month or two I ain't about what I was leading the call for. That's other people. That's if you can remember me trying to start something that I didn't believe in the stuff I started, remind me about that. Sit me down and remind me about that. I don't remember. Thank you so much. May Allah bless us to be a community of Muslims upholding the banner of Islam as it was upheld by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and by his companions radiallahu anhum ajma'in. Amen.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.